How did you each get involved with Mob City?
You know, I auditioned for it. I don't know about you guys, and it was one of those chances. Yeah, I did. You one of those chances. Was that what we call that? Was that an audition? Yeah, to have a chance to work with with Frank and knowing what this was going to be, it was an opportunity. I think all of us were ready to jump all over.
That was nice of you to audition.
It was nice of me, wasn't it?
It was.
Nice.
An actor of your stature.
No, no, please.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. When I heard Neal wants to play Parker, I said, yeah.
And you thought it was Neil Patrick
I can't believe
Harris. I didn't get him. And so then it was me.
I can't believe we actually made you you like had the job before you walked in the door. All right, anyway, doesn't matter.
Anyone else have to audition or any other processing?
Yeah, I came in after the pilot, and I got a phone call from my agent and said, hey, Frank has a new show, and they want you to look at the part of Bugsy Siegel. So right there, it's Frank Darabont, Bugsy Siegel. I'm like, I'm saying yes, unless, I mean, like if the script is and I probably got like I got episodes 2, 3, and 4, and I read the first scene, and I'm like, oh my God, I kind of knew the writing would be exceptional. I was like, all right, I am absolutely in. And then you just kind of keep your fingers crossed as you keep reading, hoping that you're in the other episodes. So that was it. By the time I got through the second script, I called my agent and I said, let's do this. Like, whatever I have to do, I'm in. And then
they say, you're working tomorrow.
Yeah, that kind of, it happened pretty quickly. So it was just a blast, an absolute blast getting to work with you and that character. I mean, yeah.
What about you?
Frank?
You take it away.
No.
You can reveal as much or as little as you wish. I've known Alexa for a very long time, and I've been just a huge fan of her work. And I just think she's spectacularly talented. She doesn't look bad either. She's reasonably attractive.
Depends on the day.
She looks like Gene Simmons to me, which, not from Kiss, but the other Gene Simmons.
What are you trying to say? What does that mean?
No, I wanted her for this part. I had this part very much in mind for her, so I kind of talked her into it. I pursued you. I wooed you to come do this role.
Yeah, he did. But I did a chemistry read with John Bernthal.
Which was spectacularly exciting. They just...
Yeah, it was just an instant kind of, oh yeah, this makes sense. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And Jeff, I had read that you had asked to be killed off The Walking Dead early.
Frank got a hold of me and said, "You want to come be a cop in 1947?" I said, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's the first one I cast in this. There's always, what's the Jeff DeMunn role? And if there isn't one, I'll make one up because I love working with him and I love him. So I thought, okay, yeah, Jeff. And then the next thought, of course, was John, because I think even when the first time we were working with John, I had this thought in my head that if I ever get to do a good old period noir thing, this would be my lead, that John Bernthal would be the dude, because he's got the thing. He's got that era in the same way that Alexa has that era just kind of oozing through her pores. He's got that thing. He's got the John Garfield, that quiet testosterone that isn't forced or put on or a show. He just is that guy.
And the great thing is he doesn't even know it.
And he doesn't even know it, exactly.
So you wrote the Joe Teague role with John in mind?
For him, yeah, for sure. I called him and I said, don't take another show because I'm writing the lead for you in something and we're going to do it.
You're blackmailing somebody. That's a harsh word. It fits. You want me there in case the guy who isn't Popeye, he decides to be unreasonable.
You tag along, you watch my back, that's it. Bingo.
You do know I'm a cop, right?
And now you're working with so many Walking Dead people, obviously Jeff and John, and there's a couple of people behind the scenes, and Andy as well.
Andy Rothenberg, absolutely.
Is there a shorthand to working on a Frank Darabont show or a movie?
You mean between the two of us? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that has been from early on, because, I mean, geez, I suppose that was forged truly with Shawshank,
yeah,
and then reinforced with 20 weeks on the mile.
Was it only 20?
I got out in 20. I know. I think you had to remain a little longer. But yeah, you come to know with certain directors anyway. You come to know that if they say we're moving on, they got it. And if they say let's go again, they didn't get it. He knows. Frank knows. I got it or I didn't get it, and you can trust it 100%.
And Frank, from your point of view, I mean, what is it about, Jeff and John and Andy and there's a couple of crew members, I think, also from The Walking Dead. What is it about this group?
Well, quite a few. Greg Melton, our production designer, I've worked with him on, time and time again. I've known him since high school. Talk about a shorthand that develops with somebody, with a colleague. It's a colleagueship forged in friendship for one thing, but also the incredible gifted abilities of this person, whether it's Greg or Gigi, who is our costume designer, or
He's incredibly gifted.
Oh, incredibly gifted.
I seem to recall that on the Majestic, somebody told me that there were 17 of you.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Hollywood High Mafia on the Majestic. And the amazing thing to me, this was the point at which I became sort of I was like a little mascot. They allowed me into some of their parties. And I remember working long days, working. A day off would come. These same people would get together and go canoeing together. It's not like they were great canoers or anything, but it was just all right, we have a day off, what'll we do together?
Well, they would.
They would, yes.
I wouldn't, because I'm always too exhausted to join in the reindeer games, I'm afraid. But at least
on
they get
every
to go.
take, you get, even if we're shooting at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, Frank still has this innate ability to be happy and excited like a little kid. After all the movies and TV shows that you've done, it's infectious to everyone to watch our leader jump around like a happy little school kid when he gets the right shot.
It's only because of that laughing gas that I'm
That's right. Which is really
inhaling.
It's excellent. That's right.
Well, I get excited. Of course I get excited. As when we've got material that I'm excited about and I see actors come and do the kind of work that you all do, I do. I can't help getting excited.
And on the 7th day you rest.
And on the 7th day I'm in an editing room, So it's a tremendous pleasure, and if we can't find pleasure in that, we oughtn't do it, I don't think.
There ought to be checked for pulse.
Yeah, exactly. No, I got to find pleasure in that. That's the cool thing. And being in the editing room, those are the two things that give me the juice, give me the reason to wake up in the morning.
It's quite a family that you've assembled, not just on the show, but it sounds like across all of your projects. Is there anyone else on The Walking Dead that you're secretly hoping that show kills off so you can bring him in for Mob City Season 2?
I like the ring of that, by the way. Right?
They'll never get rid of Andy Lincoln. But I got to tell you, God, I loved working with him. What a pleasure. What a star. And I don't mean as an actor. I mean as a human being.
Never let down. Never lost the joy and lost the edge. Never.
No matter how tired, no matter how exhausted, no matter whatever, he is just like the gold standard of conduct and professionalism.
He did that thing of leading by example too. He never threw any weight around. He just said, here's a good way to behave. Here's a good way to live your life, and bang.
Which is very much like Tom Hanks, as you and I are both privileged to know. That kind of leading by example thing, and you know that too.
Yeah, that was my first studio film, and Hanks was absolutely that guy. All of us, all young guys who hadn't really been in a big movie before, looked to him as the example, and he just leads by example. He knows everybody's name. He's always on time. Yeah. He knows his line. Steven would ask him to do something. You got it, boss.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be Steven Spielberg for him to accord you that. Yeah. If you're the director, he does. He just flat out, he treats everybody the same. And I've seen him be kind to people he really did not have to be kind to. On life's roster of importance to you in your career agenda. These are people who matter not at all, and they matter to Tom because they're human beings, and he gives them their dignity and their. I can't say enough about Tom. Yeah. I mean, we could go on for an hour about him, and as you know as well.
Yeah, and Band of Brothers, he was, you know, like Ed was saying, he gave us all a shot at the title, and he treated us all the same and rooted for us all to win. Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of somebody. No, not you. No, not Frank. This other guy.
Frank, I've read that you found John's book at an airport. What was the internal discussion? Was it a TV series? Was it a film? Were you looking to come back to TV?
For a start, the title, L.A. Noir, made me grab it off the shelf almost sight unseen. I didn't even realize it was a nonfiction book until I was on the plane. You know, a nonfiction book can wind up feeling like a homework assignment, or it can be one of those things you cannot put down. So I got to my vacation spot and spent the first day finishing the book and not even walking outside because I was so absorbed in it. When I got back to town, I called my agent to see if the rights were available, only to discover that my friend Michael DeLuca had the rights under option. So I called him up and I said, Mike, what are you doing with this? He says, I don't know, why? Are you interested in this? I said, yeah, I love this. He said, great, let's put our efforts together. And we always, Mike DeLuca and I both, from the get-go said, this feels more like television because it feels like, you know, there's just years worth of material here. It's a gift, really, to have the venue to tell a story in the long term, because it winds up being such a wonderful pursuit of the characters.
Now, a lot of you guys play real life characters. I mean, how close, are we going to see the show stick to the actual events and the events of the book? I mean, how much make-believe do you get to play with
We're playing a lot of make-believe because this is, in terms of adaptation, is the loosest one I've ever done. I mean, you're playing a real character, and you're playing a real character. She's playing a character I invented, as is Jeff, as is Milo. I had to give myself permission to bring a level of invention into this, invent a lot of fictional components to it. And the intention is to weave that into the nonfiction that John Bunton so brilliantly reported to us in his book. You know, as I sat down to write the pilot of this year before last, I thought, okay, I can really be diligent about doing, like sort of the homework approach to this material, and it can wind up. It felt like, the potential for a very dry kind of docudrama, masterpiece theater approach to what we're doing. Or I could say, to hell with that, and bring whatever level of invention, give myself the license to bring whatever level of invention I needed to bring to it to tell the most entertaining story. Knowing that John Bunton's book would be a touchstone and a guide and a sort of, in a way, a spiritual advisor to the story. Aside from that, it's not a documentary, and all bets are off. So we're making stuff up right and left. So now that I've stated that, I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, how much? For those of you who are playing real characters, how much research did you do? I mean, to play Chief Parker.
Well, we did a pretty good amount of research. There's no biography written about Parker, which was the challenge. But we went down to the police museum. That was great, and we got to see all kinds of great pictures. And one of the most amazing things was to watch or to see Parker's handwriting, and what chicken scribble his handwriting was, and then to see Mickey Cohen's handwriting that was so feminine and so perfect cursive. It was interesting just to see those types of things, and then to talk to guys who really knew him. In fact, the guy I played in Band of Brothers, Buck Compton, the two of them are really great friends. And so I learned a lot from Buck and from other people who did know him. So it was more word of mouth. And there were so many different opinions of what Parker really was as a man. But there was always that same kind of steady through line to him, that he wanted to get the job done, do it correctly. And later on, we'll tap into his alcoholism and other flaws that he had. He wasn't perfect, that's for sure. And I think that's what makes Parker such a fun character for me to jump into.
And Ed, what about yourself?
You know, I did a bit. I knew a little bit about Bugsy from just being a fan of sort of, you know, old-time gangsters. But there really wasn't that much that I could find that I thought I could sort of apply to trying to portray this guy. And Frank and I had an early conversation where we basically said, look, Bugsy's got to be larger than life. You walk into the room, you have got to own it. And, you know, for me, the work, quite honestly, was easy because the scenes were so well written. I mean, what was required of me was on the page. It was, all right, this guy, you know, if he walks in and it's a scene that we have together, he's going to own that room and he's got to be super charming to the ladies. All the gang have to want to kill for him. And then when he has to turn into the homicidal maniac, you've got to be able to turn on that switch as well. You know, I don't get to play these kind of guys. So it was such a blast for me. And
which surprises me, by the way, because you're so damn good.
When you came off the plane, there was a scene the first time that we worked together, first time we actually met each other.
Yeah.
There's this beautiful old red plane from the 40s, and he rolls up, and there's all my guys and the squads there. And he rolls out of this plane with this teal suit that there's not a chance in hell anyone else could have pulled off but Ed Burns. And he came out so ballsy. I'm like, okay, now it's on now. And we had such a good time playing that scene, and other scenes also, but it was great.
Who are you? What's the occasion?
William Parker, LAPD. You're under arrest for the murder of Abe Greenberg.
What do you want to put me in the electric chair? At the idea, Bill?
This is California. Here it's the gas chamber, Ben.
Thoughtful. Some career choice you're making. You're going to wind up looking very foolish over this.
We'll see.
Well, the first thing we shot was the scene out in the desert. And it was a big scene, a lot of pages, and, you know, he just said, you got to own this, man. You're the guy that started Vegas, so this is your turf. Go for it. And we did the first take, and you know, we had never worked together before, and I was like, all right, okay, that was like, he liked the choice I made. Let's go with it. And then the more we played, I could really, you know, you find the character sometimes as you're playing, and that was it. It was just a. I mean, I said to you, talking about Hanks and Ryan, this is the most fun I've had as an actor since Private Ryan. And I think part of it. You know, the script is so great. You're working with a world-class filmmaker who likes to collaborate with his actors, trusts his actors, lets you take a chance. And as you said, you know when Frank says, all right, hey, we got that, you're good. You know, but if he says, hey, we got to do it again, take it down a little bit here, you know you're in really safe hands. And then like Ryan, this is just the best ensemble that any actor could ever hope to work with. Great guys and gals who are all helping one another out, you know, like we were constantly encouraging one another, oh, nice take, do that. And you also know, like our first scene, like after we did it, like we had a take, it was like, oh, that was the one, right? Yeah, okay, yeah, you know. And that's fun.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That's why you want actors of that caliber, because they're always going to surprise you a little bit, and you better be prepared to be surprised. I mean, otherwise you're trying to micromanage somebody else's gift, somebody else's talent, and I learned very early on, actually, during Shawshank. It's like, let the actor bring it. They bring something that's you know is the wrong choice, then speak up. But otherwise, let them. They're the ones who are going to own that character. You know, let Morgan Freeman do his thing, because he's pretty good. You know, I can't teach him anything about acting. All I can do is point the camera and give him the environment to do his best work.
So interesting about Mob City is that Joe Teague is a cop, but yet he's kind of not necessarily a good guy, and that this series really kind of does explore that gray area. Are the lines blurred for all the characters on the show? Would you say? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, I play a fictionalized character who's a fixer for the mob, but he's also the mob's attorney, so he has to operate on both sides of the fence, and represent legitimately and legally these crooks, these bad guys. And I think at one point I even asked Frank, I'm like, you know, how gray is Ned? Because, you know, legally the cops are looking at him, they're not really convinced, but also, yeah, he has the law degree and he's never holding a gun, he's got a pen and all that. And Frank was like, you know the inner workings of everything, and you're helping them orchestrate, basically. So I was like, well, there's my answer. He's down in the dumps with his bosses, with Bugsy and with Mickey, and you know, he's there for the cause. And it gives him a very good life. So, you know, it's incredibly muddled, but in such a complex way that's fun to follow and fun to play. And we talked about it so much, like how did Ned find his way into this world? How was it that he found his way in? Was he kind of bred into this? Did he grow up around maybe a crime syndicate that all of a sudden he was aware of it, but they tapped him and said, this guy's got the goods, we're going to send him out to California. I mean, there's even a nod, I think, in the later episodes where the Meyer Lansky and Ned connection, you understand very much that he was placed with Bugsy and Mickey. And
it's a hint of it at this point. It's something I really am looking forward to exploring. If we're lucky enough to have a second season, I want to pursue that line of questioning, because it is absolutely fascinating to me.
But the idea of like this kind of guy who acts within the confines of the law, but also like outside of morality sometimes, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of repression that people have in themselves and restraint that people have. I think to be a guy who appears with restraint, but is really letting all the demons out, you know, and letting guys like Bugsy Siegel be Bugsy Siegel, and you aid in that, you know, for the good or for the bad. You do it.
It's funny, I don't know where I got this, but I always assumed that they paid for your law school.
Because that's actually something we've discussed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I assumed it without a second thought.
Yeah.
I knew that they had paid for your law school.
Yeah.
You got out of the military, and they had enough of a knowledge of you to say the kid's bright, send him to law school. Yeah. We need a lawyer.
Oh yeah, because you put him in a suit, he looks astonishing, and you could send him into any strata of society. You could send him to the top party in Hollywood, and that's a guy, if he's got the brains to go with it, and the wits, and the smarts, and the chess playing sort of strategic, you know, goods. You know, that's a very valuable combination.
And
if you're the mob,
to be comfortable with both.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a very valuable asset. Yeah. Put him through law school. Send the kid out to the West Coast. Absolutely. So I want to get into all of that in the second season. It's very exciting to me to, you know, to pursue that whole idea.
I hate to disappoint the boss.
He's got bigger worries right now.
A murder charge will do that. Where does that leave us, the people who work for him?
That's why I came, to reassure you. Nothing changes. You keep things going here until Ben beats this thing. Until then, Mickey's in charge.
Mickey?
I know he comes off like a clown at times. It's taken me some getting used to, I admit, but the more I know him, all of Ben's operations are safe and snug. That's the message.
And Neal, now you play a good guy on a show that really kind of romanticizes mobsters. I mean, what's the challenge in playing, you know, a Boy Scout like William Parker, especially, you know, how do you make him likable when you're almost rooting for some of the mob guys?
Well, it's funny, like Ed was saying earlier, that he never really has a chance to play the bad guys, where for a good long time I've been the bad guy in many things. And you know, to go from Justified, where I was a complete psychopath, and for Frank and Michael Wright to have the wherewithal to say, oh, now let's make him the Boy Scout on the TV show. You know, so to play such a historical character is pretty amazing. And for him to, you know, have the confidence to clean up the whole police force and then hire his buddies from Normandy, say, come on, and I'll give you a job if you know, basically pay allegiance to the city. Not really himself, because he didn't have that kind of ego. It was, what's the best thing for our team called Los Angeles? And it's, you know, that's a lot of pressure, and especially putting out, you know, dealing with, you know, all these other sordid characters. It's, for me, it's going to be a lot of fun to play for a long time.
Excellent. And, you know, Alexa, you're on the show and you're surrounded by so many tough guys. What does Jasmine really bring to the table?
Well, she's a skirt to start. She brings a skirt for sure, which is a good change of pace. She's to me, she's every woman, and she's a woman of a very specific generation. So she's a woman that came through the war and survived, you know, the crash and every other thing, and lost her family, and is someone who is a survivor ultimately, and is a chameleon enough to make her way in this underworld, you know, of men. I don't think she intended to be there. I don't think that, you know, she's found herself in a situation where she's made a mistake, like we all do in life, and now she's running. She's, you know, she's someone who is involved with all of these men and chased by all these men. So she brings, I think, a little bit of femininity, a little bit of
a fantastic, wonderful female energy that the show requires, and is a great beneficiary of her presence. She, you know, listen, every noir needs that feminine energy, that tough, you know, wonderful.
She's a dame. She's a 19.
She's a dame, yeah. The femme fatale, but you know, is she a good girl? Is she a bad girl? Well, you know, let's you know, tune in and find out. You know.
And you know, I come from a family of 5 boys and a girl, and I always say my sister is the toughest of all of us. Alexa's the same way. You do scenes with Alexa, she was always so dialed in. You're like, what is going through this girl's brain right now? You know, so it's kind of scary. You know, she's like, how is she so tough? What's going on there?
I can tell you what it is. Yeah. What's going through her brain is, I am Jasmine Fontaine. It is 1947. As you say, you get so dialed in when you're doing your work. It's such a pleasure to watch.
Still taking pictures. The Clover, I mean. Girl with the spangly dress, big flash camera taking pictures of all the famous people. Society columns ate that stuff up, I bet.
Mickey loves having his picture in the papers, especially with celebrities. We had George Raft and Ava Gardner in the other night.
Nice.
Not just famous people. Nobody's too. Next time you're in, I'll take your picture.
You recently made some comments about calling AMC sociopaths.
Oh, did I?
For the way that they treated you on The Walking Dead. How has this experience been different?
Not just treated me, believe me, there are plenty of people who would, and probably will go on record at some point. How is this different?
How has this experience been?
Oh, we're working for human beings here. There's not some committee that ambushes you with you know, pages and pages of ridiculous notes. If they have something to say, and I mean they, it's Michael Wright, you know, and we get on the phone and we discuss something, and I'm not being flooded with micromanaging nonsense. He actually has something very smart and creative to discuss with me, and we discuss it, and we come to a determination, and we find a compromise, and you know, it's a great give and take. I feel like I've got a one-on-one relationship with the head of the network here as we make this show, you know, rather than having some faceless, you know, bureaucracy that is trying to influence the creative, you know, the creative process, yeah. I mean, it's really great. It's very, very filmmaker friendly. I cannot say enough about them. They're real human beings. They're real, you know, they got heart, soul, and they've been tremendously supportive. And he's really a straight shooter too.
And he's very present, Michael. He's around and he's there, he's involved, he's very passionate, he knows what he's talking about, he's incredibly well read. He's, you know, someone who brings a lot to the table, which is a rarity, I think.
Yeah, how many times the head of a network just come to the set and hang out?
Yeah, exactly.
I've never seen that before. And you know, bring his kids and.
Yeah, not like a king in a castle tower. It's like he's down on the ground with us, which was always great.
Because if he says I'll try, he'll turn himself inside out to give you what you need. And when he says I can't, I've learned that he can't. You know, I mean, there's not some game being played. There's no agenda going on. It's really, he was true to his word. You can trust what he says, and that makes him very rare.
Is there a note that really stands out that really was different in the process? That something that Michael said that
yeah, sure. I mean, the pilot, as it was originally, had a different opening. It started off with sort of a flashback opening, kind of introducing us to some of our characters. Young Mickey Cohen, as a child. One of Michael's notes was you know, for the pilot, for that first scene, the very first introduction of this show to the audience that we're hoping to enlist, it could be a little tougher. It could be a little more exciting. It could be a bigger action, thing that draws us, it grabs, bait the hook. So now our pilot begins with a really tough action scene with lots of gunfire and Tommy guns going off and guys getting blown. It's terrific. It was a very, very smart note, but it wasn't a whim, it wasn't caprice, it wasn't, just gonna try and stick my finger into this pie. It was a guy with an actual creative thought that was very, very smart. So I don't feel like somebody's, seeing me as a hand puppet, where they want to, like, do my job, they wanted to use me as a proxy for how they want it done. It's a tremendously positive, collaborative give and take, and I have nothing but praise for him.
Does the success that The Walking Dead has found since your departure, does that surprise you? All the continued ratings records?
No. Hell, I'm all in favor of a good zombie show.
It's approaching season 5 now. Where would the show be? Where would Walking Dead be had you still been?
I have no clue. I have no clue. I don't know where this show will be in the middle of season 2. Like for me, okay. I know what season 1 is. We'll get to season 2 when we're actually doing season 2. I can't think that long range, and frankly, my head's so full of what's on my plate at any given moment that fills my life. But the fun of what we do is getting in there and making it up as we go along, and that's really what we do. Nobody wants to admit that, but that's frankly what we do.
Did you know where you wanted it to end this first season?
This first season, yes, that I did know. I always had that little, you do have markers that you'll aim for. And you've done the same thing. You're a storyteller, so I know you have like a little marker, a little sort of end game idea, and you go, okay, that would be really cool if that happened. How do we now engineer it so that we can land on that space,
So do you have a number of seasons in mind for Mob City?
Oh, endless seasons in mind. Let's do this for 20 years.